You're listening to Demand and Disrupt, the podcast for information about accessibility, advocacy, and all things disability.
Welcome to Demand and Disrupt, a disability podcast. I'm your host, Kimberly Parsley.
And I'm your co-host, Sam Moore. Welcome to the second episode of Blabbing in the New Year. We are...
You just said blabbing in the new year. Okay, guys, I'm just going to tell our listeners, the reason we are laughing is because this is the third time that we have tried to record this.
Yes, I was thinking about our technology snafus that we've had. Blabbing in the Bluegrass, ladies and gents, is my other podcast, but I'm also glad to be a part of this one with Kimberly. Yes, due to the constant mysteries of technology in 2026, this is our third take.
Our third take. And we are tired and slap happy, so y'all gonna have to forgive us.
I'm gonna have to go get another cup of coffee.
Oh my goodness. I tell you, we truly do have a really wonderful show, so we will persist, Sam.
Yes, it's all about just keeping on.
100%. Demand and Disrupt. That's the show you're listening to, folks.
Is it really?
It really is. Yes, it really is. This is the second one of 2026. It is Demand and Disrupt, a disability podcast.
January is flying right by, and it's flying just about as fast as technology is changing, apparently.
I tell you what, February is going to be here, and we're still going to be trying to get this show out. Sorry. We have not been drinking.
Next Halloween, we might have, a brand new show from... And it'll be 9 months in the works.
I'm telling you, which will be a shame because I did a fascinating interview with Dr. Sasha Rabchevsky. Oh. He is a professor at the University of Kentucky. He's a researcher, and he's the co-founder of the Kentucky Congress on Spinal Cord Injury. And he talks a lot about the research that's being done, about some of the unique challenges that people with spinal cord injury face, how spinal cord injury is not one thing. Like no two spinal cord injuries are alike. So it was fascinating. And
yeah, we can all learn a lot about, the different types of spinal cord injuries and causes of those injuries, and nothing like a professor to clear up all that confusion for us.
He would be an awesome professor to have had. He really, really would.
I'm sure his students love him.
I bet. And he's engaging. Now, I would never have had him because, neuroscience and stuff. I'm not that smart. I never would have been in his class.
Well, it wouldn't have been not my major either. But unless we just wanted to take him for our mandatory science class or whatever.
There you go. We could have audited, right? We could have audited just to sit there. Yeah. Hang out with Dr. Rabchevsky. That would have been fun.
Maybe get another A to add to our college course list, because I know we both racked up a ton of A's. I mean, if either one of us made B's in college, Kimberly, they were just barely B's.
I see. So your New Year's resolution is to lie more. Is that what I'm hearing?
I'll tell you what, I'm getting better and better at it, so it seems. But you were telling me, Kimberly, off air, that you actually make very thorough notes about your New Year's resolutions, don't you?
Oh, no, we thought we were on the air, Sam. When that was happening before, we thought we were on the air, but...
Oh, yes, we thought we were.
So, yes, New Year's resolutions, I do love them. Thank you for segueing there, Sam. I'm trying, and I just couldn't make it happen. But
it happens.
Yeah, I actually write down my New Year's resolutions, and people ask me how many I have, and I don't know. I just have a bunch, and I actually pin them in a notes app in your phone. You can pin a note to the top, and I have it pinned to the top. So I can always go back anytime and look and see, how am I doing on my New Year's resolutions? What were they? Maybe I don't remember.
And if you forget, and if you neglect to follow them, your pleasant or maybe unpleasant reminder is never far off.
Yeah. But even then, if you decide not to follow through with one, it's interesting to look back at hey, this was important to me in January, but now this is not so important in, July or whatever. So you're just okay, I'm not going to do that.
Sometimes as the calendar changes, your priorities change.
Exactly. And one of my priorities this this year, as of now, is to do a little work on editing the podcast, like learning how to use the editing software.
The technical side of things.
The technical side of things. I am looking forward to learning about that. So that's one of them. What about you, Sam?
Well, I didn't go real overboard on the New Year's resolutions, and I generally don't. But, I have renewed some commitments, one of which is obviously to my Blabbing in the Bluegrass podcast, considering that's how we started this take of the episode. But I'm also continuing my commitment to demand and disrupt, and this great collaboration with my friend Kimberly Parsley and all of our great guests that we've developed rapport with since we started this thing. But our buddy Eldon Kaiser from Cave City, KY, he reminded me a few weeks ago that if you don't make any New Year's resolutions, you can't break any New Year's resolutions. So, a little food for thought there. If you don't make them, you don't break them.
But it's not like there's a New Year's resolutions police who's going to come around and,
No, unless you want to take on that role, Kimberly.
Nope, I'm good. I think you should shed anything that isn't working for you. If you start something and it's not working for you, I think, no, just be done with that. If it doesn't mean that much to you anymore, just be done with it. I'm perfectly fine with that.
We won't think anything less of our faithful listeners if they decide to drop their New Year's resolutions, or if following them just doesn't quite work out. As long as you keep listening to us.
True. You must listen to us.
That's, we definitely should send a demand and disrupt listening police around to make sure that, folks stay tuned in.
No. And, I was looking at, I think I told you I would look up some of the origins of New Year's resolutions. And, there's not a lot there, except that it appears they can go all the way back to like Babylonian times.
Oh, they were making resolutions that far back, huh?
Yeah. Like at the beginning of the year, of course, a New Year's resolution is really just about time and improvement, right? So it's very, very much part of human nature, right? Just to think along those lines.
I mean, we should all strive to better ourselves, but just because we don't follow our New Year's resolutions verbatim doesn't mean that we're not getting better, Right.
You might have decided to work on something else that you didn't even write down.
Yeah,
and
exactly.
People do that.
Like I told Kimberly, I believe either off air or the first time we attempted to record this, you can, to me, in my mind, you can make a New Year's resolution anytime in the month of January, right on up through the 31st.
Yeah. 100%. I think
February's a little late, but January, first month of the year, you got the right to make a resolution.
One of the only health resolutions that I was thinking about is to not eat candy.
Not eat candy?
Yes.
At all?
Right. At all. Yeah. Not eat, like cutting out candy. Not like cookies or baked goods or whatever, but like just candy, because
that'll be broken on Halloween. I can just
exactly, but because it's so processed, it's just something. No judgment on anyone who eats candy. I eat candy. M&Ms are literally a food group for me. But
gotta be peanut M&Ms for me.
And you said February, and I was like, ooh, February. That's when the Valentine's candy comes out. I love Valentine's candy.
Yeah, that's right.
And then I was like, resolution, no candy. Crap. So already I can see I'm not going to get very far with this one, y'all.
Yeah, we might not even make it a month with that no candy thing.
No.
And then, next month, you'll be eating Valentine candy hearts and what have you. And then,
Easter candy.
And then Easter candy. Yes, Easter candy. And then, of course, October, you can't let October go by without candy corn.
Oh my God. Yeah. See, so it's already now you're making me think, do I still have candy corn anymore?
You may be eating candy corn tomorrow now. Yeah. Don't hold yourself to that no candy thing, because I just got a feeling. I mean, I love you and all, Kimberly, but I just don't have much faith that this no candy venture is going to work out for you.
I feel like you're probably right.
I just got to be realistic on that one, but anyway, your sweet tooth screams too. You realize that, the longer you go without candy, it just screams louder and louder, and you just can't ignore it forever.
I think you're probably right. Yep.
Yeah.
Sam, bring in the wisdom today, right?
Always. At least I like to think so.
Well, something else that you're going to be bringing, Sam, is that you're bringing yourself to a future live webinar that we're doing for the release of Tina Jackson's book, My Silence Roars.
Book release.
I know. We are doing a book release party. We're doing it live. We're going to be asking Tina questions. Sam and I'll both be there. It's going to be so exciting. Dave Mathis, our executive producer, is going to be there. Tina and her husband, Mark, of course, are going to be there. And it is on February 2nd at 1 p.m. Central, 2 p.m. Eastern. I will put the link somewhere. And here's the thing. We're still working on because you're going to have to register for this event because it's special. So you're going to have to register for this event. And we are working on getting the link up now. So I don't even know if we will have it by the time this episode drops, but keep looking. Watch our Facebook page. Watch all the normal channels because we will put it out there.
Regardless, you will have plenty of time to register yourself.
You will, and you'll want to do that because we are going to be doing a drawing, maybe a couple of drawings, we don't even know, for a copy of Tina's book, a free copy of her book, My Silence Roars. It's her memoir about growing up as a disabled woman.
Can I be in the drawing?
Yeah, I don't know.
I don't like the vibes I'm getting on that one, Kimberly.
I was going to say, yeah, of course, but then I don't know. That might seem not fair if you did actually win, Sam.
Yeah. Some folks might take issue with that. So I went on.
Yeah. But we got print copies. We got electronic copies for screen readers. We'll have an audio copy probably, but it's not ready yet. There's a whole thing where you have to have your print copy out first. So we don't have audio copies yet, but we will have.
That's in the works, right?
It's in the works,
coming.
and I'm sure we will get the Kentucky Talking Book Library to do that as well, to do a recording.
One of their fabulous readers.
Yes, so good. We will do that, and
because we're all about equal opportunity here on Demand and Disrupt.
Yes, we are. Well, you'll want to sign up, register. It's going to be so much fun. I'm excited.
Yeah.
I know, right? And that's on February 2nd. So
Monday, February 2nd. That will be on a Monday. So
yes, Monday, February 2nd. If I said January, I'm wrong. It's February 2nd.
I think I almost did too, but yes, Feb 2.
Right.
2-2. Remember that.
2-2. It will be so much fun. We are looking forward to it. It's kind of going to be a party. I'm excited.
It will. We're going to have cake and punch.
Well, I am. I don't know about you, but
yeah, I guess I'm gonna have to furnish it maybe.
Bring your own. Yeah, bring your own cake and punch.
Bring your own cake and punch.
Exactly.
Oh gosh, it'll be fun.
And you all go ahead and get your beverage and snack of choice to pull up a chair. Listen to my interview with Dr. Sasha Rabchevsky. I am joined today by Sasha Rabchevsky, and he is a professor and researcher at the University of Kentucky, and he's going to talk to us about spinal cord injury and living with that and the Kentucky Congress on Spinal Cord Injury. Welcome, Sasha. I wonder if I am eligible to join that club. I know probably not getting a lot of people wanting to bang down the doors to that club. I had a surgery that at C2, C3, that area, to remove a tumor. So, and I don't have the use of my left hand. So does that qualify as a spinal cord injury?
Well, of course it does. And I'll be honest with you, and it's not well known because of we're kind of rural, but we are open to anybody. And when I mean anybody, people who care about spinal, if you have a caregiver, if you have somebody who has multiple sclerosis, if you have somebody who's in a wheelchair for whatever reason, that's what the Congress is all about. It's not necessarily for I know it got tagged because Jason and I are spinal cord injured individuals, but we realize that you have to cast a wider net to get community involvement. So yes, you would definitely be welcome. But here's the catch-22, Kimberly, and I'm glad we're bringing this up, is because after my good friend Jason Jones, who was president of the Congress, passed recently, just months ago, we are kind of in a quandary. We don't know what to do with the Congress because it's not funded, it's voluntary, And we've kind of not lost, but through the inner workings of just life and things of this nature, people have drifted off, and it's hard to get volunteers to do this. So the mission of the Congress is basically to bring like-minded people together to be able to, if, for instance, I mean, Jason and I started the Congress because we wanted to make restaurants be accessible for wheelchairs. That's how we started it. And so in essence, then, so I'll let you take over. We are open to everybody. We have a Facebook page. We do not have a website, but I am in the process right now of getting all the former members, and including now people in the Louisville area, to come up and create another organization that would help us. And maybe that we could actually apply for funding by getting a 501c3 status.
Okay, I see. It's interesting. Those volunteer organizations like that, they do kind of ebb and flow, don't they?
Of course, yeah. Well, and Kimberly, I think you would understand this more than anybody. It takes effort. It takes people they're not getting paid. They have to do this volitionally, and especially if one has a disability, on top of the fact that they have to go to work, and on top of the fact that they need to do volunteer work for their cause, is a very big ask, I think, in many cases.
It's true. And, we're tired.
Yeah. Right. Well, I don't know about you, but I hearken a lot to this quote that I heard recently from nonprofits that were talking to NIH, saying that women, in particular mothers and parents, are tired of storyteller fatigue. They just have storyteller fatigue because they're saying the same things and they're asking for the same things, and yet nothing is being done, and it's a frustrating thing. So I guess I always akin, like when we used to have meetings and Jason and I would gather people, it's like herding cats.
Yeah.
And here's the catch-22: when we put free T-shirts or free paraphernalia, or that there's going to be vendors there, people will show up. But if you say, let's have a meeting because we want to do something, there's no buy-in. You have to have incentivization, like I like the term. Whether it's in science or in nonprofits, you have to have incentivize people to do things that they normally do or they get paid for. Yeah.
Right. I call it, I've seen it referred to as advocacy fatigue.
Oh, yes.
Yeah. And it's all the same thing. And it's, I mean, I look in my inbox of, if I see one more group wanting me to talk to my congressperson, I swear. I mean, it's so important, but it's also exhausting.
Well, Kim, I've gone so far as to literally write out letters that all people have to do is put their signature in it, and they don't do that.
No.
It's very, very difficult. And you can't force it because you want them to be encouraged to do it. You don't want them to feel, pigeonholed into doing something like that. So yeah, it's a very challenging thing, to say the least. And especially when it comes to the term advocacy, I'll be honest with you, I particularly don't fancy that term, only because it just reminds me of what we're complaining about, right? Going up to Congress and asking. I call it activism. I like to
activism.
The activist. I just think about it. I do it, and I get in trouble sometimes. But it's better to ask for forgiveness than plead for years for permission, because it isn't going to come.
Yeah, that's true. 100%. But I feel like 2026 is the year we're going to solve it. We're just going to fix discrimination. That's my goal. So,
gosh darn it, we need to have those kinds of goals.
I tell you, what could go wrong? How can we not, right?
If you don't aim high, you're never going to get the lower targets and fruits. So that's the way.
It's almost the tagline for the show at this point: go big or go home. That's how we roll here. So we're going to do this. So tell me about the Congress and what they do.
So actually, the Congress was formed in 2013, and the way Jason and I just did it was, well, we kind of asked around, guys, gals, wheelchairs and people with disabilities, we need a Congress. And people are like, where's no, we're not politicians. I said, Congress, if you look it up, there were just a bunch of old men that, middle-aged men that kind of joined together and they formed it. Let's do this. So we formed our own chapter. We formed our own mission, visions. And then we even had secretaries and appointments. And we started to host what was called the annual Kentucky Spinal Cord Injury Research Conference. And we would every year hold the conference, typically in the Lexington area. Once we did it outside, closer to Frankfurt, but and we tried to incorporate people with Louisville, but it's difficult. People like Dave Allgood and folks like that up in Louisville, and people like yourself who, for instance, Jenny Smith, who you've interviewed before, she's a good friend of ours, and she's not really part of the original Congress, but she's also part of our group because she's represents the Louisville area. And so what we
Right.
do is we gather together, we get, and the other thing is this, is that Jason was really good, as mine now, on fundraising and get sponsors. So we did not get paid. We had no income, but we used to get sponsors to sponsor a yearly meeting in which the vendors would show up, the sponsors would show up, they have tables. And then we'd have assignments, and then we'd also assignments. In other words, we'd have showcases and things during the day, and we would bring in speakers. Every year was a different theme, usually around accessibility or even sexual kind of difficulties with disabilities, things of these natures. We really kind of opened up every year, and we had a different theme, and we did that for 10 years. And then,
Wow.
unfortunately, I got sick, Jason got sick, and then we still ran it, and we still have a Facebook page, but we, especially with the passing of Jason, that there's like a torch that needs to be carried, and it's very difficult to ask, much less get people to kind of carry it on, because a lot of people are like, no, there's no way I could do that. When really it was like just ad hoc. We didn't do anything. We just kind of like got together and tried things. So, and therefore the Congress still forms as my own hub, as a dissemination hub. I actually have a mailing list, which I also have a weekly email letter that I send them all about spinal cord injury, either research, advocacy, or actually resources, things that you can go to web pages that'll help people. And it cycles every week, so that and I can actually, with your permission, get you on the web.
Sure, absolutely do that.
Because again, it is spinal cord centric, but it involves really a lot of state disability issues, because that's what we're all talking about here: is access, equal access.
Yeah, it may look different for each of us,
That's right. That's right.
We're all looking for the same thing, which is just equality, right?
Right. Well, Kim, it's interesting that we had this moment, because I had a faculty meeting yesterday in which the university is now implementing, and we have to, and we understand why, but all of our slides and all of our presentations that we give to students now have to be ADA compliant, which doesn't mean just, it has to not even be just, not for instance, Braille, but if you give an article, it has to be readable by the person who is either visually or auditorily impaired, which is really hard for us. But then again, I'm kind of saying to myself, wait a minute, you can't struggle with this. This is your own mantra. You have to be able to. But again, what I'm saying is that accessibility from the standpoint of a person in a wheelchair is getting into buildings. But then once you're in the buildings, you have to factor in all the other disabilities, like the deaf and the blind, which really, to me, are at the back of the bus in this whole thing, right? For yourself, I don't know what your challenges have been, but blindness is a really difficult, disability to navigate with the infrastructures that we have, just like building codes and things of this for people in wheelchairs. It just wasn't designed for us. And yet we've had the ADA on since 1991? So it's quite amazing to me how even into 2026, we are still doing things at a snail's pace with regard to even putting up new buildings that are not in violation of ADA infractions. It's amazing to me how many bids get approved when they're not even compliant with the ADA. And this is all across campus, by the way.
Yeah, I hate to hear that. I'm not surprised to hear that, but I hate to hear that.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's true. We have to be thinking about people with other disabilities. I hear, like, when the smart speakers came out, and this is going to open up so much stuff, and it's going to make things more accessible for me. And then I think about people who are hearing impaired, the deaf and hard of hearing community. And, we can't leave those folks behind.
Yeah.
We need to bring everyone, because, as I know, just because you have a disability does not mean you won't get another one.
Right. Yeah.
So you may think that you're looking out for yourself, but not you, as in Sasha, but the collective you. If you're looking out for one person, you're only looking out for your present self, but your future self may be very different. So,
Kimberly, I'm telling that to my colleagues. I'm approaching 60 years old. I'm like, guys, you're going to be using this stuff that I'm using pretty soon.
Yeah, right. Exactly. I hear people say, well, I'm not disabled. I'm like, well, not today.
Right. Hey, we're only one bike accident or one trip away from peak of joining the club, right? Somehow.
Exactly. Yes, exactly. It could happen at any time. And I know people don't want to think about that. I get that. I don't want to think about extra disabilities either, but
right.
it's a reality. It's as one of our co-hosts, our disruptor in chief, as we call her, Carissa, says disability is natural. It is a just part of the human condition.
Yeah.
So now you mentioned a bike accident. That is what led to your spinal cord injury. Is that right?
Yeah, I was in a motorcycle. I was a passenger on a motorcycle in 1985 in the hills of West Virginia, and I wasn't wearing a helmet, and I got the worst end of the deal when we got to an accident. And when I woke up out of a coma back in 1985 in Georgetown Hospital, the accident happened in West Virginia, but I was flown to Georgetown. When I came out of a coma, it was the first paraplegic I ever met. I didn't know what paraplegia was. My dad was floored. Nobody understood what was going on. And that was my new introduction to disability community.
Wow. Dropping right in the deep end, huh?
Yeah, exactly. You know, and again, it was one of those things where you're prime. I was 19 years old, already in college. I mean, and playing a college football. It's one of these things where you're kind of like, you know, you're invincible, and then all of a sudden you're more dependent than you were when you had diapers on. You know,
Right.
your parents
Right.
and your loved ones and your sister, you know, your siblings and things of that nature. It becomes a different ball game, and your aspirations are probably still there, but you got a whole different set of playing cards now.
Yeah. So did the trajectory of your life change at that point, or did you stay the course you were on?
Well, it's a good question, and I think I've thought about this well enough to say that for sure that the accident changed my course. I would not be a professor of neuroscience had I not had an injury. It wasn't in I was a pre-med major, but I had a 2.7 average. I wasn't going to, you know, go off to any kind of glorious postgraduate career. But then the accident happened between my sophomore and junior year in college. And that's when, you know, my 2.7 GPA went up to 3.5. So it made me focus. It made me realize I wanted to go to medical school, and it made me realize I wanted to help people. And also just, I was a bug. I started doing research when I was an undergrad, when I came after my accident, actually. And I went down to Emory University. It was my first time away from home and things like that. And it was a wide-opening thing. I could do research. And then they told me you can go to school and get paid. I was like, what? So that was kind of my mission. And honestly, there was no Christopher Reeve Paralysis Foundation back then. There was no internet. There was no things of that nature. So you kind of had to strike out on your own and try these things. So that's how I ended up, you know, going into academia. I worked as a technician in NIH for a couple of years before going to graduate school. So I kind of wanted to get back into becoming, what is it like to be alive as a paraplegic at 20 years old. So I worked, but then as I worked, I was studying, and I studied to take the graduate exams, and then got into schools and decided to go to Florida, University of Florida, which is the furthest away from home I could get. And it was warm.
Oh, yeah.
You know, and so it was a very, very important part of my life. So going back to the original question, yeah, the injury definitely put me on a different path.
Uh-huh. And what kind of supports or help did you have in those early days?
First and foremost, my parents and my sister, and friends from childhood. There were no organizations. I didn't join up with any kind of a peer group or mentoring. My parents, I believe, used to go to some kinds of groups for support, but basically this was before GoFundMe. I mean, we just wrote letters and asked people for help because we couldn't afford it, you know, we couldn't afford the expenses. And so we did a lot of old school emailing and writing, and I guess the preview to what's now called GoFundMe, and it really helped solidify and helped our community. It helped me, for instance, also be able to purchase a hand cycle for racing, which back in that day was just unheard of, and it was custom made, and it was just strange. But again, those are the kinds of things that having a support group in family. Oh, and by the way, I should say church. My church was very instrumental. I'm Russian Orthodox, and in the Washington D.C. area was is my church that I was baptized in. And so growing up, that was always my go-to, and when I got injured, it was a big nucleus and to my recovery was having the church group.
Yeah.
And also part of that, and ironically, part of the church group that I was involved with is also the Russian American Scouts, called it's called the Russian American Boy Scouts. And we used to meet at church all the time. That's how we grew up. But we had a summer league camps. out in the wildernesses of West Virginia and Virginia. And that's where my motorcycle accident happened, was at one of these camping trips.
Oh, wow. Okay. Uh-huh.
Mhm.
And how long did you stay in like a rehab facility?
Yeah, I was in the National Rehabilitation Hospital in Washington, D.C. After I got out of Georgetown, they put me there, and I was there for about 3 months. They said they wanted me there 6 months, but I was dead set on getting out, and so I got out in 3 months and went. And that's when I really just decided that I wanted to go back to school and finish up my degree. And I actually did correspondence courses, and actually because of my Russian language and correspondence courses, I missed a whole year of college, but I only graduated a semester behind because I was taking correspondence courses.
Oh, okay.
The
Uh-huh.
old days before we had Zooms. And
Wow. Uh-huh. So they'd
yeah,
send you a packet info, stuff, something like that.
that's right. Yep. And it was
Uh-huh.
actually the internet actually had not yet even, surfaced. So this was all still old school, snail mail kind of stuff where I had to read old books and write my old handwriting
Uh-huh.
and send it in. Yeah. Yeah.
I get it. I learned Braille from a correspondence course from the Hadley School for the
Is that
Blind.
right? It's
Yeah.
by yourself. Wow.
Well, with my mom. My mom
Oh, I'm
helped.
sorry. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
Mhm. Yeah. Yeah. Same thing. Mhm.
So you got thrown in that way, right?
Yep.
Oh gosh. So there was
Yep.
nobody to even like hear any kind of advice to you, just kind of like truck it, right?
My mom just called and found at that time I went blind in 1990. So, and that was the year the ADA passed, like you said. So, yeah, that was helpful. And my mom called up just looked in the yellow pages again, pre-internet, and found the Department for the Blind. And she called them, and they walked her through. They helped connect her to people. So that's
So I akin that to my parents back in the 80s. Like, paralyzed? What? Like, he can't pee, he can't put again. I mean, nobody, like, this was all foreign to us back in the day.
yeah,
Nowadays, you can't go to a website without getting all kinds of information overload about injuries and disabilities. Back in the day, it was kind of like, well, good luck, you know.
yeah,
Felt
yeah.
like they were being thrown in the deep end of the pool. And in a way, I used to actually go back to not Georgetown, but to the Washington Hospital Center, not just for my own physical therapy, but it really helped me to help other people. I actually went there and I was mentoring. I was doing peer mentoring before it even had a title, I guess. But I went in by my own volition. I wasn't being paid and I was working, but I would take off work and I would go to the hospital. And actually, in a way, it was very, reinforcing for me to be able to say, look, I'm doing okay and I can help other people.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Same here. It's interesting. Our stories are different, but similar because after I lost the sight, I was a writer and I lost the use of my left hand in 2016, and I just thought, well, that's it. That everything's done. But honestly, getting back in the job at Center for Accessible Living in 2022 and learning that I could do peer counseling, and helping other people get through whatever disability journey, wherever they were, it was hugely helpful for me. I hope for them as well, for the people, but hugely helpful for me to learn that, hey, all this garbage that I have dealt with, there's some info I can share. I can make something out of it,
That's exactly right. Yes.
So, yeah. And rehabilitation, after my 2016 surgery, I was at, I think it's called Stallworth. It's a rehab hospital affiliated with Vanderbilt.
Sure. Yeah.
And I was there a month and I had to relearn how to walk, feed myself,
My goodness.
all those things. I also left early because I had little kids. I had a 4-year-old and a 7-year-old at home.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah. And so I wanted to get home to them. So,
Goodness.
yeah, but it's interesting. Those places are so helpful, but also, gosh, you want to get out, right?
Right. Yeah. I was going to say, you want to get out as soon as possible. I mean, I must admit, Kim, I don't admit this much, but when I was in rehab, I was so in denial. I was looking at everybody else around us in a circle in the gym, and I was like, poor guys, poor gals. Like, I was like, I'm going to do okay, but they're not going to. I was just I had a different attitude. And I guess it was denial, exponentially, amplified because I was more like I'm a doer. This isn't me. And,
Yeah.
and every time, I don't know about you, but every time I would conquer something, whether it was getting a cast off or was getting something off or becoming more able or more independent, my God, it was like a huge victory, and it doesn't seem like, in the bigger picture, yeah, it took you back, but it was the incremental steps that were huge, getting, minor things that we're recovering, because I mean, we both were near death. Let's put it that way.
Yeah.
When you're in a hospital for as long as you and I have been, it's almost like death.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Right.
and you feel like when you're going to come out, what's it going to be like? What's the new life going to be? And that's where nobody really can tell you. But with people like yourself or myself, at least we give the people who are more recently injured some perspectives, and to say that there is possibilities, and it's not one of my biggest things that changed me, by the way, when I was in the hospital at the rehab, was a gentleman by the name of Ron, and I forget his last name, and I wish I did, but he came and he visited me in the hospital at the bequest of a nurse practitioner there who knew him. He came in and he had a sports car, and he was paralyzed from waist down, but he was taking his legs and he was folding them, and I was like, who is this guy? And then he went out and he got into his car, and it was into a convertible not Thunderbird, a Mustang. And I was like, he folded his wheelchair up, he threw it in the back. I'm like, holy crap. No one told me this in rehab. And that's what really helped me was, and again, finding somebody who's doing it with the disability versus listening to everybody telling you how to do it. You kind of have to mimicry, I guess, in a way.
Yeah. So did you end up getting a sports car?
Yes, I did.
Wow. What kind?
Yeah. The first one I got was a Grand Prix. Well, actually, I converted my old Grand Prix, which I had before my accident, into with hand controls. But then I bought my first Thunderbird, which was my first big sports car, red Thunderbird. You might as well write a ticket on it next to the side, because it was so glaringly obvious and fast. And then my upgraded to a Monte Carlo SS after that. And then I got into an accident in 2018, which I had my second spinal cord injury, by the way.
Second. Oh my word.
Yeah.
Oh wow.
2018, and then totaled the car, and I've been driving ever since, a van with a side ramp.
It sounds like you need to stay with the van there.
Yes.
So what happened with what in the world?
The second spinal cord injury? Yeah.
Yes.
I was on my way to work for a meeting, and I don't recall exactly how it happened, but I turned into a turn, and somebody T-boned me. But the car was flipped twice and had to get the jaws of life and everything. I was conscious for most of it, but kept slipping in and out, and didn't realize at the time, but I had definitely had a second spinal cord injury, along with, I don't know, six broken ribs, six broken ribs, and left arm that was just really badly debilitated. Wasn't broken, but I couldn't even operate a motorized wheelchair. That's how bad it was. But then, got out of that was about a month recovery at Cardinal Hill here in Lexington. And then I went back to work, probably way too early. But I just, I'm a doer. I can't, say, woe is me. And so I went back and continued my work.
So is that uncommon for someone with a spinal cord injury to get? Is there something about having a spinal cord injury that makes you more susceptible to another one?
I don't believe so. But I will say that I know 3 people, and they happen to be, well, one man and 2 women who have had 2 spinal cord injuries also. My second spinal cord injury was lower. That I'm injured from my T5 paraplegic, so mid chest, around my chest line. I can't feel or control below that, and so it brings in a myriad of constellations. I don't have any trunk control. I can't cough like I could before because I don't have the intercostal muscles. The misnomer, or what people will get surprised about me, is that because I am kind of rambunctious and I've broken bones and stuff, they assume that I was responsible for my own motorcycle accident, and that's what I wasn't. It was the spinal cord injury that I had the second time in 2018 that I was driving, and it was involved with this accident, and the second spinal cord injury was much lower. So I have a high spinal cord injury from the past, but the lower spinal cord injury is around L1, L2. And they said, when they told me and they had spinal cord injury, they said, oh, but it's unremarkable. And I didn't know what that meant. And to this day, I'm still think that I have some secondary complications from it. But, it's kind of like, well, you're paralyzed from here down. Oh, now you're paralyzed a little bit lower, but you couldn't do that. You couldn't feel that anyway. So it's kind of I got trumped on that one.
Yeah, that's funny. The words they use in the medical jargon stuff, right? Unremarkable. It's like,
Right,
well,
right.
maybe you wouldn't remark on it, but truly I would.
Yeah, that's exactly right. Yeah, that's right.
So tell me, since you are a researcher,
Mhm.
tell me what kind of things you look into. Where's your focus area?
Well, back up for a second in that I so I went to overseas for my so after I got my degree at University of Florida, I actually did my first postdoctoral fellowship in Paris, France.
Oh, wow. Uh-huh.
Talk about changing your lifestyle and being inaccessible and things of this nature. But this was back in the 90s. And so when I came to University of Kentucky, I came very open-minded, but I knew that I wanted to do, in particular, I wanted to do something that was going to involve animal research, but that had clinical relevance. And so long story short, I've chosen different kinds of models in spinal cord injury modeling, meaning we all have different injuries, yourself, myself. Animals, we have to do the same thing. We have to injure them differently, different levels and different severities to be able to test compounds. And so after coming back here and starting my own lab up, I realized I wanted to treat things that weren't walking and talking or even grasping. I wanted to learn more about what we don't control, which is the autonomic system, heartbeat, blood pressure, regulation, sweating, which are really compromised after spinal cord injury, and especially in people with levels of T5 and 6, which I have, and above, like in the cervical, like quadriplegics. They suffer major cardiovascular complications because their autonomic system, heartbeat, blood pressure, sweating, is completely compromised. So I have been studying that, Kim, and in doing so, I brought a lot of awareness to the community, both obviously the preclinical, but mostly the clinical community, to stop trying to make people walk again. That's not what yeah, it's a noble mission, and I'd like that myself. And I can talk about the implants that I got years ago to help me walk. But the point is that while we're sitting around, we have lots of other insidious bad things that are going on with our bodies. Let's treat those. Let's look at those. And so basically, I'm looking at conditions about autonomic dysreflexia, it's called. These are autonomic syndromes that people with high-level spinal cord injuries don't have the ability to either sit up straight really quick. It's called orthostatic hypotension. You get dizzy, you fall down. Or the opposite, when you have a full bladder or when you have to do number 2, you don't feel it per se, but your blood pressure starts to rise, as would anybody. I mean, even able-bodied people, that happens when they have. But the problem is with spinal cord injury, you don't have a system to quell it. You don't have your brain to say, relax, tell your body to chill out. So you have to fight that kind of autonomic barrage of hypertensive crises, which down the road leads to strokes, leads to all kinds of problems, as aged. And this is one thing, Kimberly, I'm emphasizing here. Spinal cord injury accelerates aging, period. It makes you older faster. Why? For all the reasons that older people get older. You're sedentary, your basal metabolic rate is lowered. And so therefore, if you're at 20 years old, like I was, and you get a spinal cord injury, already you've thrown yourself into the 30, 35-year-old bracket, right?
Mm-hmm.
And then that doesn't go away. You started off at that level. So the projections for people long living with spinal cord injury, depending on whether they're paraplegic versus quadriplegic, are astronomically exorbitant. We're talking millions of dollars over lifetimes. And how many people make millions of dollars over lifetimes? No, many do nowadays, but back in the day, there were not people making that kind of money. So.
Right. And disabled people aren't likely to have that kind of money.
Well, there you have it. And that's the catch-22 also. Speaking of advocacy, if you want to help people with, who are not employed or get gainful employment, if they're making too much money, like even $11,000 a year, then they don't get Medicaid benefits or any kind of benefits. Like, what is that? Like,
right.
They penalize you for trying to become independent, right? For trying to be a tax-paying citizen. And you are, by the way, we pay taxes. It's not like, stop paying taxes on disabled people.
Right. How dare you not work? Now you worked and you made too much money, so now we're going to punish you. It's like, truly, it's a can't win.
Right. There you have it.
So Paris, I've heard, is an extremely not not wheelchair friendly city. Is that what you found there?
Yeah, it was definitely, yeah.
Yeah.
I went back in 2014 after I'd been there in the 90s. It didn't change much.
Oh, wow. Really?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
And
The subways are completely inaccessible. You can't use the subways.
really?
Nope, not at all. Nope.
Huh.
Can't use them. Anybody? Oh, you could use them if you wanted to go from one station to just one station. I think there are two that are accessible, but that's it. I used to have nightmares about getting lost in the subway systems in France when I lived there because it's very scary.
Oh, wow.
Yeah,
Oh,
yeah.
wow.
And everything's cobblestone streets, by the way. It's old school. So I mean, it's
Yeah.
like,
Right. Because it is literally very old.
yeah. Well, they don't, I don't know if you noticed, but in France, they don't have air conditioners. So, I mean, or if they do, it's in restaurants and hotels,
Right.
do not have, so it was definitely a culture shock. And then coming back to the States, after that, and coming to Kentucky, because I came directly to Lexington from Paris, it was a shocker to me that, wow, okay, it is better here, but states are still not up to par. Like I was
No.
kind of like, almost what are Americans complaining about? I mean, what are we pointing the finger about? We have our own things that we have to worry about. So
Hmm. Yeah. Yeah. But obviously you like it here in Kentucky, either the place or the job, right?
yeah, yeah. I actually, when my ex and I moved here from Paris, I thought it was going to be a 2-year stint. I thought 2 years and we'll be moving on to somewhere else. And then it just got to be a place that, why did I come here to Kentucky, by the way? It's because so we have the Spinal Cord and Brain Injury Research Center, which I'm a faculty of and one of the founding members. It was founded in 1999, our center here. And it's based on speeding and drunk driving ticket tariffs. So if you get a speeding or drunk driving ticket in Kentucky, part of that goes off to spinal cord and brain injury research funds. And the University of Kentucky and the University of Louisville typically are the biggest ones. They compete for these monies on a yearly basis. And that's what drew me here back in the 90s, because no one had heard of these kinds of programs, except there was one in Florida when I was there, but they developed it in Kentucky. So when I was in France, I was telling my ex, hey, we're going to move to Kentucky. And she started crying because she didn't even know where Kentucky was. Like, she thought it was near Oklahoma or something. I said, well, it sort of is, but not that far. But coming here was because of the fact that there was impetus for me as a young professor to not necessarily have to have NIH money to run my lab, but to have state funds to begin new experiments that I could build up and then get bigger funding. And that's how it worked. That's how it's still working to this day. This last year, the K-Shirt funded out 9 different laboratories at University of Kentucky and Louisville to do spinal cord injury research, primarily preclinical, like in animal models, but there are also some clinical grants as well.
Okay. So I'm so glad that you said like that walking again is not it's not the be all end all. There's other stuff to look at. I'm so glad that you're taking on that challenge. What's on the horizon? What are we looking at, you or others or?
Yeah, let me just step back just for a second, if you don't mind. I wanted to explain. I did have an elected to get in 2002 when I joined Kentucky. When I came here, I actually got experimental implants put into my legs and my back, electrical implants that stimulate my muscles, sort of like what you see on TV when you see these people putting on these things that stimulate your muscles so that you lose weight. Yeah, who knows, it works. But that was the principle. And I got these implants to do things. And I had them in for 20 years and they were useful. I could walk with a walker 50 to 60 feet. Okay. Now it wasn't normal walking. It was like Frankenstein, or I called it Homer Simpson's old man struggling along, but I could walk that way. But here's the catch-22. That is all hardwired on your outside. So like so I had wires going all through my body, right? Nowadays, what you were asking about is what's called spinal cord stimulation, but it's not into the spinal cord or into the muscles. It's on top of the spinal cord or even through the skin now, called transcutaneous spinal cord stimulation, where they zap your spinal cord with electrodes with paddles. And we've been finding, and it's been found across the country. And I actually went to Canada 2 years ago to learn this technique, that it actually restores volitional movement of paralyzed limbs and also, amazingly, restores bowel and bladder function. That's what's hot on the horizon, therefore, now, because it is working. It's called there's a trial that's going on. It's called Onward, is the company that they're running it, and they're finding that these devices are restoring remarkable function that normally would have never been considered, not even thought of, considered, meaning heart rate, blood pressure, orthostatic, all these things I talked about are now being not only targeted, but they're being highlighted as things to recover instead of walking. And I just think it's changed the entire field, because walking, let's not put it lightly, is a tall order. Okay.
Right.
Walking involves a lot. And therefore we're always trying to shoot for this magic bullet or this huge touchdown. When the spinal cord injury community was asking for, we want first downs. We want consistent first downs. We don't need touchdowns. And so we kind of, the kind of spinal cord injury community, which I got involved with in called Unite to Fight Paralysis, is kind of going back and now changed the way, now we have really influenced, I should say, the way the NIH and private organizations are funding research. And they're not all looking for walking. As a matter of fact, we did a retrospective analysis, and then unfortunately for the past 25 years, there has been a disproportionate, I'm talking about a significant amount of work done on walking and none on bowel, bladder, or even forearm for quadriplegics. So again, it's because Christopher Reeve, God bless him, I met him twice, and he's a remarkable, I can't even laud him enough. But one of the disservices I think that was done was when he made a CGI picture of himself walking on stage to get an award. This was back in the 80s, excuse me, 90s. It drove this field, therefore, to say, we want to get Christopher Reeve walking again. And that's where I think a lot of the money went, but I believe in hindsight, it was poorly spent. So what you're asking is what's hot is that this is involved. The other thing that's hot is that there are now oral therapies, drugs that are being right on the pipeline, soon to be FDA approved, that allow for, if you take the pill, it will allow one of two things. Either you go pee or you go poop. And guess what? The drugs have such a short half-life that once you do your business, that's it. You're good for the day. You want to do it again, you take the pill again. And that is something, again, to me, is so exciting. Yet people in the laboratory who are being told to do research aren't going to find this the most attractive or sexy, or even, how do I even approach this? That's the difference. Like, you could see a rat walking or a mouse walking or not, but you can't really tell if they're feeling good or if they got a full bladder or if they've got a poop or whatever. You can't tell that. That's why the shift has been major in the last 5 years of looking more at autonomic outcome measures, in addition, if not exclusively, to walking and hand grasping.
And we should say, for people who don't know, which I don't know that there are many, but bladder and bowel care are hugely important in terms of the support needs for people who are paraplegic or quadriplegic, correct?
Oh my God, it rules, not ruins, although it does ruin, it rules your day. I have some good friends of mine I'm on a podcast with, and there are two other quadriplegic buddies of mine, and they just talk about how our routines are all centered 24/7 around peeing and pooping.
That's true. We laugh because what else can you do? But oh my gosh, you know what? People who walk, people who are non-disabled, their lives are too. It's just easier for them.
It's right.
I mean, we are humans. We take in food.
I got to be honest with you. I got to be honest with you, Kimberly. When I go into my handicap stall, when I'm in the bathroom and I see other people in other handicap stalls, and they're there for minutes, they're reading magazines and they're doing stuff, I'm just like so upset because I wish I could do that. I wish I could just take a bathroom break and just relax. And they say, because Confucius says that one of the best things is going poop, right? That's one of the best pleasures. And they're denied of that.
Yeah. So that is truly exciting. And I'm glad you said that about the Christopher Reeves thing. And I think he was responding to his time, right? That walking and
yes, you're right. And the thing is that he drove. So the thing that what's remarkable about him is if you look back at his quotes, and people do now, I remember him saying those then, and I was like, yes. Do you hear what he's saying? And which was, yes, there's a lot of hype around, but we need to restore dignity. We need to restore he couldn't breathe. Let me tell you a little anecdote. Christopher Reeve couldn't breathe. He was on an artificial respirator. The first time I ever heard him talk was when I mean, without any hesitation, was when he had the same implants that I have in my legs and back. He got them for his electrodes in his inspiratory muscles for his diaphragm. Well, guess what? He could wean off of the ventilator, and guess what he could do? He could smell coffee for the first time he had in years. He could
Oh,
smell
wow.
his wife's perfume. He could taste things for the first time. Well, why?
Mhm.
It's because when you're using a trach, you have none of those sensations, and people don't really understand that and how that diminishes your quality of life. So what I would say, one of the biggest contributions that Christopher Reeve did, without even getting headlines except in the New York Times, there was no articles about this in Science, was about him breathing on his own with stimulators. And to this day, I kid you not, to this day is still the only intervention, functional electrical stimulation in the lungs, that is still now accepted in clinical practice to help people with cervical injuries.
Mm-hmm.
So
Wow.
again, but it's not meeting headlines.
No.
Right? Because
Right.
it's not cortically driven. You're not thinking about something and making it happen. Well, that's, to me, when I got my implants, I knew how to push a button, for Christ's sake. I knew how to push a button to make my legs, spasm and walk. So therefore, I wasn't walking with my head, but I was using my head to push a button, so that I was ruling out the middleman, which was the
Mhm.
spinal cord.
Mhm. I have balance problems and things, and I tell my family sometimes when I'm not having the best of days that this walking on two legs thing, I got to tell you, I just don't think this is the evolutionary
Well,
grand
guess what?
gift that we think it
We all
is.
learned to crawl before we walked, right? I mean, we're just reverting back. That's what it is.
So I assume if people look up and get involved with the Congress, that they'll be able to stay on top of these kinds of
Oh, yes.
advances.
And I would also, what I will do is ask you to, maybe we could share it's a Facebook page. It's Kentucky Congress of Spinal Cord Injury is only one of them. And then what you could do is contact me, and I can put you on my listserv, my newsletter, actually, that comes out, which doesn't come out to the web. It comes out from my office.
Yeah. Okay. Well,
Yeah.
I will put that in the show notes then.
Sure,
I will definitely, that will be in the show notes. Now our listeners can look up that and get involved. And are the meetings for that group, or when those meetings start back, will they be hybrid as well?
We always had hybrid. Well,
Oh,
not
great.
always,
Oh, great.
excuse me. I wouldn't say that. It took maybe the last 3 years was hybrid, but those
Okay.
do demand a lot, but we really wanted to. And so, yes, to answer your question, yes, if we were to do it, when we're going to do it next, it will be hybrid for sure.
Okay.
I'm making
Wonderful.
that after COVID, I'm making everything hybrid.
It's one of the few good things
Right,
that came from
exactly. It's
COVID.
funny you say that. That's what I say too. It was also the time where all the stores started delivering stuff to homes.
Oh,
Like, I was like,
right.
where was this my whole life?
I know. Right. Yes. Uh-huh.
Yeah.
Same. I have friends who are blind, and we say the same thing. It's like, yeah, COVID, everyone else had to stay home. Dude, we're always at home. We've never left.
That's right. That's exactly right.
And then the other thing I would say is you are a podcaster now. You alluded to that earlier.
Yeah, I guess so. I delved into it. I've been an interviewee on podcasts, but I've never been part of podcasts until two friends of mine, one up in Canada and one up in Jersey, who are both quadriplegics. One is a high-level quadriplegic C6. His name is Barry Monroe, and his buddy, John McLevy. He's in Kessler Institute in Jersey. He's a quadriplegic, but he has central cord syndrome, so he can walk, he can get up, he can do everything, but he can't use his arms. That's a strange thing, huh?
It is. Uh-huh.
Yeah. And so the three of us get on there and we bring up topics. Last topic was bowel and bladder. Bladder. Next one will be bowel. And then after that before that we did pressure sores. So there's all kinds of different aspects about how each one of us have gone through these things and the propensity, and moreover, how we dealt with things, because there's no roadmap out there.
Right.
And I think having three diverse people on a cast with the experience is much more, I don't know, informative than when you have one person like myself talking his head off because, oh, wait, he's a go-getter, but it's not just being a go-getter. There are various grades of go-getting. I have friends who climb mountains and do extraordinary things, and I can't do that, but I dare say they couldn't do the things I've done. So
Right.
it's all about what your niche is,
And the internet, the problems that it does bring those people who are in very niche groups together. It has the capacity to do
Oh
that.
my God, it's perfect. Well, one thing, Kimberly, I admire, I guess I'm very envious about, is I see these YouTubers now and these kids putting stuff on there and just, looking like, and everybody likes them. They got a 100 but they've been paralyzed for 3 years or 4 years. I'm like, whoa, like, how can you do that? Like, don't you know you might be leading people down the wrong path? But anyway, it's kind of like one of these catch-22s where if I had that kind of venue, what would I have done? What would I have, and at the same time, you're kind of like, wow, thank God I don't have to deal with this stuff nowadays. Because to me, and here's where I wanted to mention, Kim, especially with regard to this podcast, there's so much information overload out there, right? I mean, if you wanted to find out something about your condition, you could find 6 sites. Are you going to listen to all 6 sites or only the ones that tell you what you want to hear?
Right.
Right? Because that's the way society is. It's all about likes.
Yeah,
Right?
and that's why I was a little hesitant to ask you what things are on the horizon, because I do not believe in chasing the miracle cure.
Right. No, and me neither. Why do you think I sacrificed to put implants? By the way, I haven't told you that those implants that I had in for 22 years and I was walking on stage in foreign countries and stuff. I had another surgery 2 years ago. It was a very invasive surgery. Because of that, they infected with MRSA my implants. And the implants, because I told you there are wires going throughout my body,
Right.
throughout my body. So they didn't just infect my wound where it was, they infected my entire body, and they wouldn't take them out. They had to physically pop out each time and then they would remove it. I'm telling you, it was one of these things where it was an epiphany to me to say, people, do not volunteer until you know what can happen to you in 10 years.
Right. Yeah. It's kind of like I've always been like, oh, implants,
Right.
Neuralink, sign me up. And then I'm like, Elon Musk, hang on, maybe I ought to give that some more
Well,
thought.
one of my very good friends, Ian Burkhart, is one of the first recipients of those Elon Musk's implants in his brain. And he will be the first to admit that it's not necessarily increased the performance in his own life, but it's a stepping stone, sort of like what I was with my FES implants, right? We got to start somewhere. Somebody's got to be the guinea pig. But then again, don't keep chasing the tail if the guinea pig's telling you it's not working.
Right. Yes. Yeah.
Right. That's what I have an issue about. Like, you're not listening to the patient.
Yeah. The miracle cure that I do worry about. It's just a headline. It's to fill column inches, to fill
exactly right.
content. It's not always for us, is it?
No. And again, the one thing, I'll go back to harken my days back when I was in rehab. No 2 spinal cord injuries are alike. Even if you are technically, hey, those people are both paraplegic or those people are both quadriplegic. Oh my gosh, the secondary complications for each person are all different. Yet we lump, and this is kind of I have a very good friend. Well, Josh Blue, the comedian, by chance. He's a comedian who has CP. And
right. Okay.
Yeah, anyway, he's got this line, it's an older line, but like, he talks about the disability bus, how like, hey, you, the deaf guy, help the blind guy get into the bus. Hey, you wheelchair guy, you can't get in. Hey, blind guy, come back out and you help the guy in the bus. And that's what it's like. We feel like the disability bus or the ADA train is like this big monster train, but no separation of distinguishing between one disability versus another. Like, for instance, handicap spots. Do you know now that there's a controversy across the United States that handicap spots in Florida, in Jersey, and Ohio, I believe, are now allowing pregnant women to park in handicap spots? Not pregnant women with disabilities, but pregnant women who are bearing. Now, I understand the theory behind it, and don't get me wrong, I'm not feminist, but my goodness, are you kidding me? This is a whole different sector. You're taking up a space for convenience. Anyway.
I'm so glad you brought that up, because, okay, I have things I could say about that, but Kara Ayers wrote a wonderful article about it. And I believe she was one of our very early guests on this podcast. And she wrote an article about why, because I think most people here let pregnant women park in handicap spots. And most people would be like, sure, why not? But she wrote a wonderful article I will link to in the show notes. I want people to read it. I will just tell you, one of the things that she says is, what about pregnant disabled people? And I'm like, boom.
Oh, wow. Yeah.
I mean,
There's the double jamming. Yeah. Yeah.
yes, didn't even think of that. So yeah, I want to link to that, but go ahead with what you're saying. I just got real
Oh, no,
excited when you
no,
mentioned
no,
that.
that's what I wanted to say about that, Kimberly. I could go on, you and I can go on days about that.
We should. We'll do that off mic. We will
Yes,
do
yeah.
that definitely.
Well,
That
actually,
will.
one other thing before I forget, after we get off, I'll send you a couple other things to drop in the chat that think people might be interested in listening to. Okay.
Sure, sure, sure.
Okay.
So, and I'm going to link to your new podcast. What's the name of the podcast?
It's called Three Men and a Spinal Cord Injury.
That's hilarious. That's
Um,
hilarious.
and it's I could send I'll put a link to this. It's actually part of it's called a quadcast, which is what John McAlevey started in Kessler, in Jersey. And then he kind of teamed up with myself and Barry to say we need to have a spin-off of the quadcast called the Three Men and a Spinal Cord Injury. So that's what we're doing.
And listeners, I have listened to the podcast. It is great. It is wonderful. You should give it a listen. And I know people may say, well, why are you promoting another disability podcast? Because I don't believe we're in competition.
Exactly.
I believe let's
Yeah,
just
but
immerse
Kim,
ourselves.
when I first was introduced to you, and then I went on your, I looked at all the people, including Jason. I looked at all these people that you talked to, including Jenny Smith. They're all like my best friends. This is what it's all about. It's not about secrecy. We don't have trade
No.
secrets, for Christ's sake.
Nope, exactly. Let's just immerse ourselves in this culture. Let's all support each other.
And I think the other thing, I mean, correct me if I'm wrong, but we're also doing this because of passion, not because of paychecks, right?
No, it is not the
I
paycheck.
am not a money maker in this one, that's for sure. In fact, it might slow me down from gaining more gainful employment. So
Exactly. So yes, 100%. I will put that in the show notes. People check that out, and we will get Sasha connected, and maybe we can even have you back on here.
I would love to, and actually, if we could, maybe in the future, I'd like to talk more about my relationship with Jason and what we were able to do.
You know what? Let's do that now. Because
Sure.
Jason,
Sure.
it's still very, very soon since we've lost Jason.
Right.
We did mention right before the winter holidays, we did talk a little bit about Jason. But once you go ahead, just in case his wife and kids, stumble across this episode, let us know about Jason, what he was to you, what you thought of him.
Well, Jason Jones was a remarkable man. He is a C6 or 7, very high level quadriplegic. He never had to have trachea, though, fortunately. He was paralyzed when he was a teenager in a high jumping accident in high school. In any event, I met Jason not through Jason. I met him through his father. His father, also who has passed, unfortunately, Bob Jones. Bob Jones is a very reputable and well-known durable medical equipment representative because he actually had a trade for it, right? He had his son who was disabled, so he did that. He used to be a preacher, reverend, and through that, I kind of got to know Bob because he was my wheelchair guy, and we got to be very good friends. And I used to go with him to church services, and I used to do lots of things. But then, slowly but surely, I started to get introduced to his family and his son, Jason, who we're speaking about. And when Jason and I became friends, and we got to know each other a little bit better, he saw me as a renegade, and I saw him as this guy who was a politician. That's how I thought it, because Jason knew everybody, right? And he just knew he had a connection with everybody. Well, long story short, we were very different disabilities, but we started to put our heads together and ask ourselves, what is a Congress? What do we want to do? And we started it off by one time we went to a restaurant, and it was completely inaccessible. And moreover, they doubled down and they said, we don't need to make it accessible because we're grandfathered in. And we were like very upset. And so Jason and I started writing letters, and we started to get lots of politicians in the local area to listen to us. And we started a restaurant checkbook. And that started really helping us gain a lot more sponsorship and membership, and Jason's connections throughout the disabled community really helped us. And I brought in the scientific component. So when we used to have meetings, I used to bring in scientists and people that would talk about what you're asking, what's newest and latest and on the horizon. We used to bring in universal design people to come in and talk about what universal design is. We had people coming from University of Pittsburgh who are, in particular, Rory Cooper, who's a very famous, well-known paraplegic engineer who is responsible for doing a lot of the airline industry accessibility kind of modifications that are forthcoming, still in the works, but forthcoming. So
you promise?
Yeah, hey, he's promising, not me. He's promising, not me. Boy, that's another episode we could do just on plane travel.
Just on
Anyway,
that, yeah. Uh-huh.
so Jason and I became very close in that sense. And in a way, we became each other's alter egos, especially when we had meetings and things, because I was like this stone hard, we got to get this done yesterday, kind of a scientist. And he was more like, dude, you can't talk with paras and quads like that. You got to be relaxed. I'm like, well, okay, well, he didn't talk like that. I'm just envisioning that's his
Yeah.
persona. Because he was just such a laid back individual. And I guess when you have to put up with as much as he had throughout your life, you tend to kind of dismiss a lot of shenanigans. And so he was more of the politically correct, if you will, team in that match. So he was the president, and I was the co-founder. Or
Okay.
vice president, I should say. And then Jason just used to bring me. So a lot of his family, in particular his mother, became my second mother, if you will. My mother passed many years ago, and I don't have family here. And so they adopted. I would go in there during Thanksgiving holidays and Christmases, and became very good friends with them in that capacity. But throughout my time, I got to say it, I was in awe and almost envious of what Jason had, because he had such a beautiful family unit. I mean, but it was a family unit that was like 20 times bigger than I'd ever seen in anybody. And everybody just kind of like, when they were in that area, we were family. And that really helped me in my own struggles after my divorce and living alone with spinal cord injury. It really kind of helped me realize that I had a family. And so when recently he passed, it was like a big loss, not just to my constituents but to us as a very big gut in the punch. And that's why I kind of mentioned that the wind has been a little bit taken out of the sails of the Congress because of Jason's absence in particular. And moreover, he had more contacts and connections than I did as a professor. Because I guess my title and also my attitude sometimes is a little bit intimidating versus Jason's. And so therein lies the trick for me now, as to how to balance his past with what I have now inherited.
Yeah. Well, Jason will be missed, but in the new year, maybe the Congress can pull back together and work in his memory going forward.
And that's what we're hoping for. I'm actually working with SIL up at Centers for Independent Living up in Louisville. We're trying to maybe figure out how to pass this on, because Independence Place was down here in Kentucky, and they moved their offices to Louisville. So again, we're missing a big part of what we used to be, but it doesn't mean we can't still keep doing it with branches different places.
Absolutely. Yeah. Absolutely. A lot of work, a lot of workers. We're going to.
Well, yeah. But well, if you don't know, I will tell the audience, getting people to work is not an easy thing. Especially because it's typically altruistic. You're asking people to take time out of their own, the time out of their own schedules to help out with something that they're not necessarily getting compensated for.
Right. People are busy. Lives are busy.
That's exactly right. Yeah.
But, the rewards are huge. The rewards are huge, not just for our community as a whole, but individually. Like I said, turned my life around to join into this community.
Right. Right. Well, and I'm glad you did. It was very, very, I actually, to be honest with you, when I read your story, it almost brought me to tears to realize what you've been going through. I mean, it just, again, my mantra, by the way, and I should tell you, when I was in the hospital, Bob Marley has always been one of my biggest musical fans and things. His mantra was, every man thinks his burden is the heaviest, is one of his songs. And that was my mantra when I had a quadriplegic roommate who was using who had to use a trach to even like breathe. That's what put things in perspective to me, is that every man thinks his burden is the heaviest.
That is true.
But it also means that there are also greener grasses, and that's what people focus on.
Yeah.
And yes, it's definitely greener other places, but at the same time, look at what you have compared to other people.
That is true. I mean, I have family. I have sighted help in the house and things. So on the other hand, I feel like when I walked into that rehab hospital, they have like the gym, the workout room I feel like when the blind lady walked in, everybody was like, hey, it could be worse. Look at her.
Oh, wow. Wow. Yeah. Well, I know a blind quadriplegic.
Whoa. Yeah.
Yeah.
See, so that's a lot. That's a lot
Yeah.
to handle, right?
Yes, it is. Yes, it is. And
But hey, there's a community. There's always community. That's
right.
what we're doing. Well, Sasha Rabchevsky, thank you so much for talking with me. This has been a wonderful conversation. I'm sure we're going to come back around at a later point in the year. And everyone, check out those show notes. Thank you, Sasha, for joining me.
Well, Kimberly Parsley, it's been wonderful meeting you virtually. And I hope one of these days we get to cross paths physically in our great Commonwealth.
Let's do. Thanks,
All right.
guys.
Okay, take care. Bye-bye.
Demand and Disrupt is a production of the Advocado Press with generous support from the Center for Accessible Living based in Louisville, Kentucky. Our executive producers are me, Kimberly Parsley, and Dave Mathis. Our sound engineer is Michael Parsley. Thanks to Chris Ankin for the use of his song, Change. Don't forget to follow or subscribe so you never miss an episode. And please consider leaving a review. You can find links to our email and social media in the show notes. Please reach out and let's keep the conversation going. Thanks, everyone.
Just for once, I think I would agree. We both know there's a difference. We've had our curtain call, and this time the writing's on the wall. War of words we can't defend. Two damaged hearts refuse to mend. This situation's pointless with each and every day. It's not a game we need to play. Tried to make things better, repair and rearrange things, but each and every letter spells out the need for us to open up our minds and hearts to change. Then what will be. Disregard for good to set us free. There's just no way of knowing if love lives anymore. We'll turn out the light, then close the door. Tried to make things better, repair and rearrange things, but each and every letter